This dress was made for you to wear to the Harrington Gala, Mabel, and I won't take no for an answer. Mabel Reed's eyes lit up as Vivian Ashford pulled the most stunning gown from the navy velvet box. It was a deep emerald green that seemed to capture the light itself, with an elegant neckline, a cinched waist, and a skirt that would flow like water over her curves. It was the kind of dress she'd only seen in magazine spreads. "Viv, this is incredible," Mabel breathed, running her fingers over the luxurious fabric. "Are you sure? This must have cost—" "Stop right there. You're going to look absolutely gorgeous. Trust me on this." Mabel grinned, her heart racing with excitement. When was the last time she'd done something this spontaneous, this glamorous? "Okay," she said, unable to hide her smile. "Let's do this." 2 days earlier. "Are you absolutely sure you want to do this?" Mabel looked at her reflection in the boutique mirror, her eyes sparkling with delight. The woman staring back looked like she'd stepped out of a Hollywood movie. Sophisticated, elegant, radiant. The dress hugged every curve like it had been designed specifically for her body. "Viv, I look amazing," she laughed, doing a little spin that made the skirt swirl around her legs. "I can't believe I'm actually going to a gala." "You deserve this, Mabel." Vivian beamed at her best friend. "You work so hard at that graphic design agency. It's time you had some fun." Mabel nodded, her excitement bubbling over. Sure, her job wasn't glamorous and her apartment was tiny, but she loved her simple life. Still, the idea of experiencing Vivian's world for one magical night, that was an opportunity she couldn't pass up. "I'm so glad you invited me," Mabel said warmly, squeezing Vivian's hand. "This is going to be incredible." She had no idea just how right she was. Present. Harrington Gala night. The Celestial Hotel ballroom was breathtaking. Swarovski crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling like captured constellations, and Italian marble floors reflected the swirl of designer gowns and impeccable tuxedos. Mabel took it all in with wide-eyed wonder, a genuine smile on her lips. "This is like a fairy tale," she whispered to Vivian. "Just wait until you taste the champagne," Vivian winked. "Ready to make an entrance?" Mabel straightened her shoulders, radiating natural confidence. "Absolutely." And what an entrance it was. The emerald dress did more than clothe Mabel. It celebrated her. The fabric accentuated every generous curve with a sophistication that was both elegant and captivating. Her chestnut hair was swept up in an effortless chignon that revealed her graceful neck, and the Bordeaux lipstick completed the image of a woman who was comfortable in her own skin. When they entered the main ballroom, the effect was immediate. Conversations died mid-sentence. Champagne flutes paused halfway to lips. Men's gazes turned like sunflowers seeking the sun, and women's whispers rippled through the crowd like wind through wheat. But it was one particular pair of eyes that found her first. Across the room, standing beside an elaborate Belgian chocolate fountain, Alexander Thorne froze with his glass in hand. The billionaire heir to Thorne Industries, known for his perpetually bored expression, now stared at the entrance like a man who'd just witnessed something impossible. His breath caught. His heart, that organ he'd thought had turned to stone years ago, suddenly remembered how to race. Who was she? Beside him, Felicity Pemberton, his perfect fiancée in her pristine white Chanel gown and diamond necklace worth more than most houses, followed her fiancé's gaze. What she saw made her blood run cold. The way Alexander was looking at that unknown woman in the emerald dress wasn't mere admiration. It was something far more dangerous: recognition, wonder, the look of a man who'd just found something he didn't know he'd been searching for his entire life. Felicity's perfectly manicured fingers tightened around her champagne flute until her knuckles turned white. That girl, whoever she was, had just become a problem. A problem that Felicity Pemberton would need to eliminate. Immediately. Mabel was admiring an ice sculpture of a swan when she felt it, that prickling sensation of being watched. She turned, champagne flute in hand, and found herself looking directly into the most intense pair of steel-gray eyes she'd ever seen. The man was tall, devastatingly handsome, in a way that seemed almost unfair, with dark hair and a jawline that could cut glass. His tuxedo fit him like a second skin, and he was staring at her with an expression that was equal parts fascination and confusion. "Hi," Mabel said brightly, refusing to be intimidated. "Great party, isn't it?" Alexander Thorne blinked, as if coming out of a trance. In his 32 years, countless women had thrown themselves at him with rehearsed smiles and calculated charm. Not one had ever simply said hi with such genuine warmth. Yes, he managed, then mentally kicked himself for sounding like an idiot. "I don't believe we've met." Mabel Reed. She extended her hand with easy confidence. "I'm here with Vivian Ashford. We've been friends since high school." Her handshake was firm, her smile unguarded. Alexander found himself holding her hand a moment longer than necessary, studying her face. She had freckles across her nose that her makeup didn't quite hide, and laugh lines that spoke of a life filled with genuine joy. "Alexander Thorne," he said finally. "Oh, the Thorne Industries Thorne?" Mabel's eyes widened with interest, not calculation. "Vivian mentioned you'd be here. Congratulations on your engagement." The words hit Alexander like cold water. Engagement. Right. Felicity. "Thank you," he said automatically, though the words tasted wrong in his mouth. "Your fiancé must be excited about the wedding," Mabel continued, oblivious to the storm brewing in Alexander's chest. "When's the big day?" 6 weeks, came a crisp voice behind them. Mabel turned to find a stunning blonde woman in white approaching, her smile as sharp as broken glass. Even without introduction, Mabel knew exactly who this was. "Felicity Pemberton," the woman said, sliding possessively close to Alexander. "Alexander's fiancée. And you are?" "Mabel Reed. It's lovely to meet you." Mabel's smile remained genuine. "That's a gorgeous necklace." Felicity's hand flew to the diamonds at her throat, surprised by the compliment. She'd expected jealousy, envy, perhaps a challenge, not friendliness. "Thank you," Felicity said coolly, studying Mabel like a scientist examining a curious specimen. "I don't recall seeing your name on the guest list." "Oh, I'm Vivian's +1, Mabel explained easily. "She insisted I come, and honestly, I'm so glad I did. This is incredible." She gestured around the ballroom with such unaffected enthusiasm that several nearby guests smiled. Felicity's eyes narrowed. This woman was either the best actress she'd ever encountered, or genuinely happy, simple, unambitious, which made Alexander's reaction to her even more confusing.
"Mabel!"
Vivian appeared, linking arms with her friend.
"There you are! Senator Morrison wants to meet the woman who designed his daughter's wedding invitations. Come on!"
"It was nice meeting you both," Mabel said warmly, as Vivian tugged her away. The moment she was gone, Alexander released a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. "She's different," he said quietly. Felicity's jaw clenched. "She's nobody, darling. A charity case Vivian dragged along to feel philanthropic." But Alexander wasn't listening. He was watching Mabel's animated conversation with the senator, the way she laughed with her whole body, the way she made everyone around her feel at ease. When was the last time he'd felt anything? "Alexander," Felicity's voice had an edge now. "We should mingle. The Vanderbilts just arrived." "You go ahead," Alexander heard himself say. "I need some air." He walked toward the terrace before Felicity could protest, his mind spinning. He'd met thousands of women, beautiful women, sophisticated women, women who knew exactly how to navigate his world. So why couldn't he stop thinking about freckles and an emerald dress? On the terrace, Mabel found herself alone with the Manhattan skyline, processing the whirlwind of the evening. She'd just met Alexander Thorne, the Alexander Thorne, and he'd seemed almost human, not the cold corporate titan the tabloids portrayed. Hiding from the chaos? She jumped, turning to find Alexander himself stepping onto the terrace. "Just taking it all in," Mabel admitted. Your world is beautiful, but it's a lot. My world, Alexander repeated, moving to stand beside her at the railing. You say that like you're not part of it. I'm not, Mabel laughed. I'm a graphic designer from Brooklyn who shares an apartment with 2 roommates and a cat named Picasso. This? She gestured to the glittering party inside. This is a wonderful dream I'll remember forever, but it's not my reality. Alexander stared at her, fascinated by her self-awareness. No false modesty, no fishing for compliments, just honest truth. Maybe that's exactly what makes you different, he said softly. Different from what? From everyone else in there. Their eyes met, and Mabel felt something shift in the air between them. Something electric, dangerous, and absolutely impossible. Inside, through the terrace doors, Felicity Pemberton watched them with cold fury blooming in her chest. This nobody in her borrowed dress was not going to ruin 6 months of perfect wedding planning. Whatever it took, Mabel Reed would be gone by morning. You're playing with fire, darling. Felicity's voice was syrup-sweet as she cornered Vivian by the champagne fountain. Your little friend seems quite taken with my fiancé. Vivian's eyes flashed. Mabel was making polite conversation. Something you might try occasionally. How noble of her, Felicity purred, examining her flawless manicure. Though I wonder, does she know Alexander has a habit of collecting charity cases? Last year it was that starving artist from Soho. The year before, a marine biologist with fascinating stories. He gets bored easily. Mabel isn't... Oh, I'm sure she's lovely, simple, refreshing. Felicity's smile could freeze hell. But let's be honest, Vivian. Girls like her don't belong in our world. It would be kinder to help her understand that now, before she gets hurt. Vivienne wanted to throw her champagne in Felicity's smug face, but years of social training held her back. Stay away from Mabel. I don't need to do anything, Felicity said confidently. Reality will handle it for me. On the terrace, Mabel had no idea she'd become the center of a brewing storm. She was too busy trying to ignore how good Alexander Thorne smelled, like cedar and something expensive she couldn't name. So, graphic design, Alexander said, genuinely interested. What do you create? Mostly wedding invitations, event branding, small business logos. Mabel's face lit up. Nothing glamorous, but I love it. There's something magical about helping people tell their story through design. That sounds far more meaningful than most of what I do, Alexander admitted. What, running a multi-billion-dollar empire? Mabel teased. That seems pretty important. It's numbers, acquisitions, board meetings where everyone agrees with me because I sign their paychecks. He paused, surprised by his own honesty. When did you know you wanted to be a designer? I was 8. My mom couldn't afford a fancy birthday invitation, so I made one with crayons and glitter. It was terrible. Mabel laughed. But she acted like it was the Mona Lisa. She kept it in her wallet until the day she died. Alexander saw the flash of pain in her eyes, quickly hidden behind that remarkable smile. I'm sorry. Don't be. She taught me that beauty doesn't have to be expensive to be meaningful. Mabel looked up at him. When did you know you wanted to run an empire? I didn't. I wanted to be a marine biologist. Mabel's eyebrows shot up. Seriously? Deadly serious. I was obsessed with sharks of all things. Alexander found himself smiling at the memory. My father said it was impractical. Thorne men run companies, not research vessels. That's sad, Mabel said simply. No one had ever called his life sad before. Privileged, yes. Enviable, certainly. But sad? Alexander. Felicity's voice cut through the moment like a knife. She glided onto the terrace, looping her arm possessively through his. The Vanderbilts are asking for you. And darling, she turned to Mabel with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Your friend Vivienne is looking for you. Something about leaving early? Oh. Mabel checked her phone. 3 missed texts from Vivienne. I should go find her.
It was wonderful talking to you, Alexander. Congratulations again on your wedding. She slipped back inside, leaving a trail of jasmine perfume and something indefinable that Alexander already missed. She's charming, Felicity said carefully, in a simple sort of way. Alexander said nothing, watching Mabel's emerald dress disappear into the crowd. We need to leave. Now. Vivian grabbed Mabel's arm the moment she found her. What's wrong? Felicity Pemberton is what's wrong. I just got a very clear warning to keep you away from her precious fiancé. Mabel's stomach dropped. Viv, we were just talking. I know you didn't. But Felicity doesn't care about reality, only perception. And right now, half of Manhattan saw Alexander Thorne look at you like you hung the moon. That's ridiculous. He's engaged. Which is exactly why this is dangerous, Vivian said urgently. Felicity Pemberton doesn't lose, ever. If she thinks you're a threat, I'm not a threat. I'm leaving right now, going back to my normal life, and I'll probably never see him again. Vivian wanted to believe that. But she'd seen the way Alexander looked at Mabel. She'd also seen that same look turn to ice when Felicity appeared. Alexander Thorne was a man in a cage he'd built himself, and Mabel Reed had just shown him the door. That made her the most dangerous person in the room. In the penthouse suite, 3 hours later, Felicity made a phone call. Marcus, it's Felicity Pemberton. I need information on someone. Mabel Reed, Brooklyn, graphic designer. She paused, listening. Everything. Employment, finances, family, secrets. I want to know what makes her vulnerable. She hung up, pouring herself a scotch. Alexander was in the shower, distant as always, but she'd seen the change in him tonight. That spark of life in his eyes, when he looked at that nobody. Felicity had worked too hard, planned too perfectly, to let some girl in a borrowed dress ruin everything. By tomorrow, she'd have ammunition. By next week, Mabel Reed would be nothing but a forgotten memory. Mabel stabbed her pencil into the sketch pad, trying to focus on the logo design in front of her. 3 days had passed since the gala, and she still couldn't stop thinking about steel gray eyes and conversations about sharks. You're being ridiculous, she muttered to herself. He's engaged, billionaire, completely out of your league. Move on. Picasso meowed from his perch on the windowsill, as if agreeing. Her phone buzzed. Vivian. Lunch today? Need to talk. Mabel's stomach nodded. That sounded ominous. Across town, Alexander Thorne stared at the acquisition proposal without seeing it. His CFO had been talking for 10 minutes, and Alexander hadn't heard a single word. Sir, your thoughts on the merger? What? Alexander blinked. Yes. Fine. Whatever you recommend. Shocked silence filled the boardroom. Alexander Thorne never delegated major decisions. He controlled every detail, every number, every move. Are you feeling all right? His CFO ventured. I'm fine, Alexander snapped, then softer. Just distracted. Proceed with your recommendation. After the meeting, his assistant caught him. Mr. Thorne, Ms. Pemberton called 3 times. She wants to confirm the cake tasting appointment tomorrow. Cake tasting, wedding planning, his future stretching out like a beautifully decorated prison cell. Tell her I'll be there, he said mechanically. But as he returned to his office, Alexander found himself pulling up Google instead of quarterly reports. Mabel Reed, graphic designer, Brooklyn. He felt like a stalker. He was engaged. This was inappropriate, insane. He typed it anyway. Her website was simple, charming, filled with colorful designs that somehow captured joy in every pixel. There was a photo of her in the About section, casual in a paint-stained t-shirt, surrounded by art supplies, that brilliant smile that made his chest ache. Stop this, he commanded himself. He couldn't. Felicity knows where you work. Vivian dropped the bomb as soon as they sat down at the cafe. Mabel's fork froze halfway to her mouth. What? She had you investigated, Mabel. Full background check. I heard from Caroline Whitmore, who heard from her cousin. who overheard Felicity bragging about it at her Pilates class. Mabel set down her fork, appetite gone. Why would she do that? I'm nobody. I'm not a threat. You made Alexander Thorne smile.
That's threat enough. Vivian leaned forward. Mabel, I'm worried. Felicity doesn't play fair. If she found anything she could use against you, there's nothing to find. I pay my taxes. I don't have a criminal record. I'm boring. Which is probably driving her crazy, Vivian said. Be careful, okay? If anything weird happens, call me immediately. Mabel nodded, but her hands trembled slightly as she picked up her water glass. The collision happened at the most unlikely place, a bookstore in Greenwich Village. Mabel had ducked in during her lunch break, seeking comfort among the stacks. She was browsing the art section when she heard a familiar voice. Do you have anything on marine biology, specifically sharks? Her heart stopped. Slowly, she peered around the bookshelf. Alexander Thorne stood at the information desk in jeans and a simple black sweater, looking nothing like the tuxedo-clad billionaire from the gala. He looked human, approachable, devastatingly handsome. Leave, her brain screamed. This is a sign. Run. But her feet betrayed her, carrying her forward. The Thorne Industries Thorne reading about sharks, she said lightly. That's unexpected. Alexander spun around, and the expression on his face, pure, unguarded happiness, made Mabel's breath catch. Mabel. Her name on his lips sounded like a prayer. What are you doing here? Books are free entertainment, she quipped, trying to keep things light. You? I needed to remember something. He gestured vaguely at the store. This is going to sound crazy, but I used to come here as a kid. Before my father decided bookstores were a waste of time. That's not crazy. That's sad, Mabel said, echoing her words from the terrace. They stood there, surrounded by stories of other people's lives, unable to look away from each other. Coffee? Alexander heard himself ask. There's a place next door, unless you need to get back to work. I have an hour, Mabel said, even though alarm bells were ringing in her head. The coffee shop was tiny, cramped, and perfect. Alexander couldn't remember the last time he'd sat in a place that didn't have a Michelin star. So, Mabel wrapped her hands around her mug. Are you going to tell me why you're really buying books about sharks? Alexander was quiet for a moment. With anyone else, he'd deflect, charm, redirect. But those green eyes invited truth. I'm getting married in 6 weeks to a woman I don't love, he said quietly. And I'm trying to remember who I was before I became who everyone expected me to be. Mabel's heart cracked. Alexander, I know. It's pathetic. I'm a grown man who let himself be molded into a perfect corporate heir. I have no right to complain. That's not what I was going to say. Mabel leaned forward. I was going to say that it's never too late to choose differently. Isn't it? The invitations are sent. The venue is booked. 200 guests. A merger that depends on this alliance. But do you love her? The question hung between them like a confession. I don't even know what love is supposed to feel like, Alexander admitted. Mabel's phone buzzed. Vivian, where are you? Felicity's assistant just came by your building asking questions. Fear shot through her. I have to go. Mabel, wait! This was a mistake, she said, standing quickly. You're engaged. I'm nobody. We can't do this. You're not nobody, Alexander said fiercely, standing too. You're the first real thing I've encountered in years. Then I'm sorry, Mabel whispered. Because I can't be the reason you blow up your life. She left him there, surrounded by coffee cups and unspoken possibilities. Neither of them saw the photographer across the street, capturing everything. A photographer on Felicity Pemberton's payroll. The envelope arrived at Mabel's apartment at 8 a.m., delivered by courier. No return address, just her name typed on expensive cream cardstock. Inside were 5 photographs. Mabel and Alexander in the bookstore, laughing over coffee, his hand almost touching hers across the table.
the way he looked at her, like she was oxygen and he was drowning. And a note, written in elegant script, "Stay away from what doesn't belong to you. This is your only warning." Mabel's hands shook as she stared at the images. They looked intimate, romantic, damning. And technically, they'd done nothing wrong. Just talked. Just coffee. But the photos told a different story. Her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Ms. Reed." The voice was cool, feminine, unmistakably Felicity. "I trust you received my package. How did you get my address?" "I get everything I want, darling. It's a skill." Felicity's voice was silk over steel. "Now let's talk about your little coffee date with my fiancé." "It wasn't a date. We ran into each other. I don't care about the details, I care about optics, and right now you look like a desperate nobody trying to seduce a billionaire." Anger flared in Mabel's chest. "I'm not trying to seduce anyone." "Good. Then you won't mind disappearing. Quietly. Completely." Felicity paused. "I did some research on you, Mabel. That graphic design business of yours? Barely scraping by. One bad review, one hint of scandal, and you're done. Nobody will hire the woman who tried to break up Alexander Thorne's engagement." "Is that a threat?" "It's a fact. I have connections at every major firm, every client worth having. One phone call from me, and your little career is over." Felicity's voice softened dangerously. "Or you could simply vanish. Block Alexander's number. Refuse his calls. He'll forget about you in a week, and you can go back to your simple little life, unscathed." Mabel's throat tightened. "He deserves better than you. Perhaps. But he's mine, and I protect what's mine." The line went dead. Alexander knew something was wrong when Mabel's number went straight to voicemail. Then her email bounced back. Her social media accounts, gone. She'd blocked him. Everywhere. "Everything all right, darling?" Felicity appeared in his office doorway, radiant in a white pantsuit, carrying wedding fabric swatches. Alexander looked at her, really looked, and saw a stranger wearing his fiancé's face. "Did you do something to Mabel Reed?" Felicity's smile never wavered. "Who?" "Don't play games, Felicity. Mabel, the woman from the gala. She's blocked me on everything." Maybe she realized she was out of her depth. Felicity examined a fabric sample. "These people from ordinary backgrounds, they don't understand our world. It's overwhelming for them." "What did you say to her?" "Nothing that wasn't true." Felicity met his eyes. "Alexander, be honest. What future could you possibly have with a broke graphic designer from Brooklyn? She can't navigate board meetings, charity functions, political dinners. She'd be miserable in your world, and you'd resent her for it. You don't know anything about her. I know she's not suitable for a man of your position." Felicity crossed to him, placing a perfectly manicured hand on his chest. "I know this wedding is in 5 weeks. I know your father expects this merger. I know you're having cold feet, but that's normal. We've been planning this for months, Alexander. Don't throw it away for some fantasy." Alexander wanted to argue, but she was right about one thing. What future could he offer Mabel? A life in the spotlight? Constant scrutiny? His world would devour someone as genuine as her. Maybe letting her go was the kindest thing he could do. "The cake tasting is tomorrow at 2, Felicity said, sensing victory. "Don't be late." Vivian found Mabel crying on her couch, surrounded by tissues and ice cream. "She threatened my career," Mabel sobbed. "My business. Everything I've worked for. All because Alexander and I had coffee." "That vicious—" Vivian's eyes flashed. "Mabel, you can't let her bully you." "What choice do I have? She's right. I'm nobody. He's a billionaire getting married. I need to let this go." "But you have feelings for him." "It doesn't matter." Mabel threw her hands up. "Feelings don't pay rent, Viv. They don't save my business, and they definitely don't change the fact that Alexander Thorne is marrying someone else in 5 weeks." Vivian hugged her friend tightly. "I'm so sorry." "Don't be. It was one magical night and a coincidence at a bookstore.
That's all it ever could have been. Mabel wiped her eyes. I just need to forget about steel gray eyes and conversations about sharks and the way he looked at me like you were everything, Vivian finished softly. Yeah, Mabel whispered. Like that. 3 days later, Alexander stood in the Pemberton estate gardens, watching Felicity discuss flower arrangements with the wedding planner. Everything was white, pristine, perfect, completely lifeless. What do you think, darling? Felicity called. Roses or peonies? Whatever you want, he said automatically. His phone buzzed. His private investigator. Sir, information on Mabel Reed as requested. Clean record. No debts. Small but growing business. Recently received threat from unknown party regarding her professional reputation. Source unclear. Alexander's jaw clenched. Unknown party. Right. He looked at Felicity, laughing with the planner, and something cold settled in his chest. She'd done this. Threatened Mabel, scared her away. And he'd let it happen. Felicity, he said quietly. We need to talk. The expression on his face made her smile falter. For the first time, Felicity Pemberton felt the ground shift beneath her perfect white heels. We need to talk. 4 words that made Felicity's carefully constructed world tremble. She dismissed the wedding planner with a wave, her smile brittle as glass. Of course, darling. Is this about the centerpieces? Because I told you... Did you threaten Mabel Reed? The silence that followed was deafening. A bird sang somewhere in the garden. Water trickled from a fountain. Felicity's expression remained perfectly composed. I protected our future, she said simply. By threatening an innocent woman's career? Innocent? Felicity laughed, a sharp sound. Alexander, please. She was inserting herself into your life, making eyes at you, positioning herself. She was having coffee with me, because I asked her to. Exactly. Felicity's composure cracked. You asked her. You, who never notices anyone, who barely speaks to people outside board meetings. Suddenly you're buying books and having coffee dates with some nobody from Brooklyn. Don't call her that. Why not? It's true. Felicity's voice rose. She's nothing, Alexander. No family connections, no social standing, no value to your empire. I did you a favor by removing a distraction. Alexander stared at the woman he'd agreed to marry, seeing her clearly for the first time. You think people are assets, pieces on a chessboard. That's what they are in our world. You know this. Your father taught you this. My father, Alexander said quietly, turned me into someone I don't recognize in the mirror. Felicity's eyes narrowed. What are you saying? I'm saying I need time to think. Time? Felicity's voice went ice cold. Alexander, the wedding is in 4 weeks. The invitations are sent. The merger contracts are drafted. You don't get to have an existential crisis now. Maybe I should have had one 6 months ago before I proposed to someone I don't love. The words hung between them like a guillotine blade. Felicity's face went white, then red. You don't love me? After everything we've built together? The plans, the future? You built it, Felicity. I just went along, like I always do. Like I've done my entire life. So what? You're going to throw it all away? For what? A fantasy about some girl you barely know? Felicity's laugh was bitter. She's already gone, Alexander. She blocked you. She doesn't want you. Because you scared her away. I saved her from humiliation, from being chewed up by our world and spit out. Felicity grabbed his arms. Alexander, listen to me. This is pre-wedding jitters. It's normal. We're perfect together. Our families, our businesses, our lives, they fit. That girl, she doesn't fit anywhere near you. Alexander pulled away. I need space. Space? The wedding is in 4 weeks. Then maybe, Alexander said, each word costing him, we should postpone. Felicity's face went deadly calm. If you postpone this wedding, Alexander Thorne, you will regret it. My father will pull out of the merger. Your company will lose millions. And I will personally ensure that everyone knows you left me for some pathetic gold digger." "She's not. I don't care what she is," Felicity screamed, finally losing control. "I've invested a year of my life into this. I've planned the perfect wedding, cultivated the right connections, positioned myself as the future Mrs. Thorne. You don't get to ruin this." Alexander looked at her, really looked, and felt nothing but pity. "I'm sorry, Felicity, but I can't marry you." Mabel didn't hear about the broken engagement until Vivian burst into her apartment 3 days later, waving her phone. "He called it off! Alexander called off the wedding!" Mabel's heart stopped. "What?" "It's all over page 6. Manhattan's most eligible bachelor breaks engagement to Pemberton heiress." Felicity is furious. She's claiming he had an affair, but won't name names. "Oh, God," Mabel whispered, sinking onto the couch. "She's going to blame me." "Probably, but Mabel—" Vivian sat beside her. "He ended it. He chose differently." "That doesn't mean he chose me, Viv. Maybe he just realized he didn't want to marry her." "Or maybe," Vivian said gently, "you showed him he deserved more than a loveless marriage." Mabel's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Her stomach knotted as she answered. "Mabel Reed." The voice was male, professional. "This is James Whitmore, Alexander Thorne's attorney. Mr. Thorne would like to meet with you. He understands if you decline, but he hopes you'll give him a chance to explain." I don't think that's a good idea. He's waiting at the bookstore, the one in Greenwich Village. He'll be there until closing, in case you change your mind." The line went dead. Vivian squeezed her hand. "What are you going to do?" Mabel stared at her phone, her heart and head at war. Alexander sat in the same coffee shop where he'd last seen Mabel, a cold cup of coffee in front of him. The staff had recognized him, hard not to, after the engagement scandal broke, but mercifully left him alone. He'd destroyed his engagement, possibly damaged his company, and alienated his father, all for a woman who might not even show up. The smart move would be to walk away, rebuild, find someone appropriate. But he'd spent 32 years making the smart move, and where had it gotten him? Engaged to a woman who saw him as a trophy, running a company he didn't care about, living a life that felt like someone else's. The bell above the door chimed. Alexander looked up, and there she was. Mabel stood in the doorway in jeans and a simple sweater, her hair in a messy ponytail. No makeup. Absolutely beautiful. "Hi," she said quietly. Alexander stood so fast he nearly knocked over his chair. "You came." "I probably shouldn't have." Mabel moved closer, her eyes searching his face. "Did you really call off your wedding?" "Yes. Because of me." "Because of me," Alexander corrected. "You just helped me see who I'd become, who I didn't want to be anymore." Mabel's eyes filled with tears. "Alexander, I'm scared. Your world, Felicity's threats, the spotlight. I'm terrified," he admitted. "I've never done anything this reckless in my life, but Mabel, for the first time in years, I feel awake, alive, and it's because of you. I'm nobody special." "You're everything special," Alexander said fiercely. "You're genuine and kind, and you see the world with wonder. You make me want to remember who I was before they molded me into a thorn." "So what happens now?" Alexander took a breath. "I'd like to take you to dinner. A real date. No hiding, no games. Just us, if you'll let me." Mabel looked at this powerful man who'd blown up his perfect life, who stood in a coffee shop looking at her like she was worth it all. "Okay," she whispered. "One date." Alexander's smile could have lit the city. Neither of them noticed the photographer outside. But this time, Felicity Pemberton wasn't behind the camera. The tabloids were. Their first date was at a small Italian restaurant in Brooklyn. Mabel's neighborhood, her choice. No paparazzi, no society columns. Just checkered tablecloths, candlelight, and the best carbonara Alexander had ever tasted. "You know," Mabel said, twirling pasta on her fork. You're going to have to eat somewhere fancier than this eventually. People will talk. Let them talk. Alexander reached across the table, lacing his fingers with hers. This is perfect. And it was. They talked for hours, about his childhood dreams of the ocean, her mother's battle with cancer, the books they loved, the lives they'd imagined before reality intervened. I want to show you something, Alexander said as they walked through Brooklyn Bridge Park afterward. He pulled up a photo on his phone, architectural plans. I'm converting one of our warehouses into a marine research facility, partnership with Columbia University. Mabel's eyes widened. Alexander, that's amazing. It's terrifying, he admitted. My father thinks I've lost my mind. The board is threatening mutiny, but I'm tired of just making money. I want to do something that matters. You're doing it, Mabel said softly, squeezing his hand. That's when the flash went off. Then another, and another. Photographers materialized from the shadows like vultures, cameras clicking, voices shouting. Alexander, is this your new girlfriend? Did you leave Felicity Pemberton for her? Miss, what's your name? How long have you been seeing him? Alexander pulled Mabel close, shielding her as they rushed to his car. But the damage was done. By morning, Mabel's face was everywhere. Mystery woman steals Manhattan's most eligible bachelor. From Brooklyn nobody to Billionaire's love interest. Felicity Pemberton's heartbreak, the other woman revealed. Mabel stared at her phone in horror as text messages flooded in. Some supportive, most vicious. Gold digger homewrecker. You destroyed a perfect couple. Her doorbell rang. She opened it to find a reporter and cameraman. Mabel Reed, how does it feel to steal another woman's fiancé? She slammed the door, heart racing. Her phone rang. A client. Ms. Reed, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to cancel our contract. We can't be associated with this kind of publicity. 3 more cancellations followed within the hour. Vivian arrived to find Mabel hyperventilating on the bathroom floor. I can't breathe. Viv, I can't. Yes, you can. Look at me. Breathe with me. Vivian held her until the panic subsided. We're going to get through this. My business is destroyed. People hate me. They think I'm a homewrecker. The engagement was already over when you two started dating? Try telling that to the internet, Mabel said bitterly, showing Vivian the trending hashtag. Mabel the man-stealer. Alexander was in damage control mode, his legal team working overtime, but every statement they released only fueled more speculation. Then Felicity made her move. She appeared on Manhattan's most-watched morning show, stunning in a pale blue dress, eyes red-rimmed with carefully calculated tears. I loved Alexander, she said, voice breaking. I thought we were building a future together. And then, she came along. This woman who inserted herself into our lives, who pursued him despite knowing he was engaged. That's a lie, Alexander shouted at the TV in his office. But Felicity wasn't finished. I've tried to be gracious, to move on. But I can't stay silent when someone destroys lives without consequence. Mabel Reed knew exactly what she was doing. She's a predator who saw an opportunity and took it. The interview went viral within minutes. Alexander called Mabel immediately. No answer. He tried again. Voicemail. A text finally came through. I can't do this. I'm sorry. Please don't contact me again. You can't let her win, Vivian pleaded as Mabel packed a bag. She already won! Look at this, Viv! Mabel gestured at her laptop, where hundreds of hate comments scrolled past. Death threats. People found my address. My clients are gone. This is my life now, all because I dared to have coffee with Alexander Thorne. So you're just going to run? I'm going to survive, Mabel said quietly. My aunt has a cabin upstate. No internet, no phone service. I need to disappear until this dies down. And Alexander was a beautiful dream. But dreams don't pay rent, and they definitely don't survive being torn apart by the entire city.
Vivian's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, face paling. Mabel, there's another story. Felicity leaked documents claiming you accepted money from Alexander. What? I know. But she fabricated bank transfers, emails. It looks like he paid you to break up his engagement. Mabel sat down heavily. She really wants to destroy me. She wants you gone. And she's not going to stop. Mabel looked at her friend, at the apartment that no longer felt safe, at the life she'd built that was crumbling around her. Then I'll go, she whispered. Alexander received Mabel's goodbye text as he was preparing to issue a statement. Thank you for reminding me what it feels like to be truly seen. But Felicity was right. I don't belong in your world. The cost is too high. Please forget about me. Be happy. M. He stared at the message, something breaking inside his chest. His assistant knocked. Sir, your father is here, and he's not happy. Richard Thorne stormed in, face thunderous. Do you have any idea what you've done? The Pemberton deal is dead. Our stock dropped 3 points. The board wants your resignation. I don't care, Alexander said hollowly. You don't, his father sputtered. This is about that girl, isn't it? The nobody from Brooklyn who's made you lose your mind. She's not nobody. She's a disaster. Look at the press. Felicity is destroying her credibility and by extension ours. This is exactly why you don't marry for love, Alexander. You marry for strategy. Alexander looked at his father. This man who'd molded him, controlled him, turned him into a perfect corporate heir without a soul. Get out, he said quietly. What? Get out of my office, out of my company. You're fired. Richard Thorne's face went purple. You can't fire me. I'm on the board, and I'm the majority shareholder. Get out. After his father left, Alexander sat in the silence, staring at Mabel's goodbye message. He'd broken his engagement, fired his father, lost the woman he loved, and for the first time in his life he had no idea what to do next. 3 weeks. That's how long Mabel hid at her aunt's cabin, watching autumn leaves fall while the world moved on without her. No phone, no internet. Just silence and the ache in her chest that wouldn't fade. Her Aunt Margaret found her on the porch, staring at nothing. You know, hiding from life doesn't make it stop happening. I'm not hiding, I'm healing. Looks like suffering to me. Margaret sat beside her. Your mother didn't raise you to be a coward, Mabel. I'm not. Mabel stopped. She destroyed my reputation, Aunt Meg. My business, everything. So rebuild. Show them who you really are. Margaret handed her a newspaper. Or you could read this first. The headline made Mabel's heart stop. Thorne Industries CEO donates $50 million to Women's Business Initiative. For every Mabel Reed out there, he says. Below it, a full-page interview with Alexander. I've spent my life making smart decisions that left me empty. Then I met someone who showed me what courage looks like. Real courage. The courage to be yourself in a world that demands conformity. Mabel Reed is the bravest person I know, and I was a coward for not protecting her from the storm I created. As for Felicity Pemberton's allegations, I have documentation proving every claim is fabricated. My legal team has filed defamation suits. But more importantly, I'm done letting fear dictate my choices. I'm stepping down as CEO of Thorne Industries to pursue work that matters. Life's too short to live someone else's dream. Mabel's hands trembled. When was this published? Yesterday. It's been quite the scandal. Felicity Pemberton's lawyers are scrambling. Several of her sources have recanted. Margaret smiled. And there's a man who's been calling the house phone every day for 3 weeks. Says he'll wait forever if he has to. Alexander stood outside the cafe where they'd first had coffee, holding a bouquet of wildflowers that would have horrified his former life. He'd been coming here every day since publishing the interview, hoping. His phone buzzed. His attorney. Felicity's team wants to settle.
All charges dropped if we don't pursue criminal fraud charges. Alexander typed back, "No deal. Truth matters." "Those flowers are going to wilt." He spun around. Mabel stood 10 feet away, wearing jeans and his favorite green sweater, her hair windblown, eyes uncertain, but here. She was here. Mabel. His voice broke on her name. "You called me brave," she said quietly, stepping closer, in front of the entire world. "You are brave, braver than I've ever been." "I ran away. You survived. There's a difference." Alexander closed the distance between them. "I'm sorry. For everything. The press, Felicity, dragging you into my mess." "Stop." Mabel placed her fingers on his lips. "I ran because I was scared. Scared of losing myself in your world. Scared that what we had wasn't real, just a beautiful fantasy. And now? Now I realize that hiding from something real because it's scary is the worst kind of cowardice." She took his hands. "I love you, Alexander Thorne. Not your money, not your name. You. The man who dreams about sharks and reads in bookstores and looks at me like I'm the only person in the room." Alexander pulled her into his arms, burying his face in her hair. "I love you. God, Mabel, I love you so much." Their kiss tasted like second chances in autumn air and everything worth fighting for. Around them, people stopped and stared. Some pulled out phones, others smiled. Alexander pulled back just enough to whisper, "They're taking pictures." "Let them," Mabel said, and kissed him again. 1 year later, the Thorne Marine Research Center opened to fanfare on a crisp October morning. Alexander stood at the podium, no longer the polished CEO, but something better. A man who'd found his purpose. "This facility represents a simple truth. It's never too late to choose differently," he told the gathered crowd. "To pursue the dreams you abandoned. To become who you were meant to be." In the front row, Mabel beamed, her left hand sparkling with a simple sapphire ring. No diamond, at her insistence. Beside her, Vivian dabbed at her eyes while pretending she wasn't crying. After the ceremony, Alexander found Mabel examining her latest design project, the center's logo, which she'd created pro bono. "Mrs. Soon-to-be Thorne," he murmured, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Happy?" Deliriously. She turned in his embrace. "Though I'm keeping Reed professionally, Mabel Reed Designs has a nice ring to it." Her business had not only recovered but thrived. The publicity had brought a wave of supportive clients who admired her resilience. She'd even hired 2 assistants. "How's the bride feeling?" Vivian joined them, champagne in hand. Excited, terrified, normal. Mabel laughed. Their wedding was in 2 weeks, a small ceremony on a beach in Maine, nothing like the spectacle Felicity had planned. Speaking of Felicity, she'd quietly married a European financier and moved to Monaco. Her lawsuits had been dismissed, her credibility shattered. Last Mabel heard, she was pregnant and actually happy, though they'd never know for sure. "Ready for the tour?" Alexander asked. They walked through the facility hand in hand, past research labs and enormous aquariums. In the shark tank, a great white glided past the glass. "Your 8-year-old self would be losing his mind right now," Mabel said. "My 33-year-old self is losing his mind." Alexander stopped, pulling her close. "I keep thinking about that night at the gala. If Vivian hadn't invited you, if you'd said no, if I'd been too much of a coward to approach you. But I did say yes, and you did approach me. And here we are." Mabel kissed him softly. "Besides, I don't believe in coincidence anymore. I think we were always supposed to find each other, even through all the chaos. Especially through the chaos. It made us fight for this. For us." As they stood there, surrounded by the life they'd built together, messy, imperfect, real, Alexander realized something. He'd spent years searching for success, approval, perfection. But happiness had found him in a green dress, with freckles and a genuine smile, in a woman brave enough to be herself in a world demanding conformity. And that was worth more than any empire. I love you, Mabel Reed. I love you too, Shark Boy. They kissed as the great white circled past, and somewhere in the universe, the cosmos smiled at two people who'd been brave enough to choose love over fear. The end.